Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater.
It does affect your life, who you vote for, whether it be for the governor, your representatives, your city councilors. It does affect your life. It seems like more than ever, what decisions are made in government kind of affect our pocketbook and perhaps our personal safety and a lot of decisions that we make here in New Mexico. We will have an election this November 7th, and many of the seats on the Albuquerque City Council are up for election. And we have invited here on Issues and Answers all the candidates for City Council seats, and those who have accepted are part of our program. And I'm very proud to have with me today Jeff Hoehn. He is the Executive Director of Cuidando de los Niños here in Albuquerque, and he is running for District 6. So Jeff is going to tell us why he is running, what his priorities are, and what he thinks he can do as your next city councilor in District 6 here in Albuquerque. So let's meet Jeff Hoehn right after this.
Hey America, now there's a place where we can join our voice, Real America's Voice. Real America's Voice is coming to a town near you with a grassroots approach, bringing the real voice of America together. Real America's Voice is growing our family of networks across the country, and soon you could be part of that change. Download the Real America's Voice app and join other Americans just like you across the country, coming together for real change.
November 7th, is it marked on your calendar? Well, that's election day, but if you're kind of old school, you'll show up to the polls, or if you'd like to see you point in that little, fill in that little black dot for the candidate of your choice, you'll go in person. Otherwise, you know, you can vote early, you can vote absentee, and there's all sorts of ways. But we know a very important election is November 7th, and Jeff Hoehn is running for District 6 for your Albuquerque City Council. And thank you so much for being a part of this program, Jeff, and for throwing your hat into the ring. Was it an easy decision to decide that you wanted to do something about something?
You know, it was not an easy decision. Back in April or May of this year, a bunch of neighbors rounded me up and said, Jeff, you're president of the neighborhood association, and we think that you'd be a great city councilor. So I spent a couple months, I explored the issue, I talked to neighbors, and I made sure it was right. And lastly, of course, so I went to my wife and said, hey, should I do this? And she said, absolutely, I think it's a great idea. Let's see if we can change our city. So I don't think any big decision is, I think any big decision, is made lightly. I think we have to weigh those things, and that's what I did, and that's why I'm running.
And you want to change our city. Really, does our city need changing, Jeff Hoehn?
I think we can do so much better, Diane. I truly believe that in my heart. I'm a proven leader. I have 10 years of executive experience. I know how to take ideas and turn them into action. Our city is struggling right now with homelessness, with crime, with a whole host of issues. And we need a city councilor who's not afraid to do the hard things and take these things on head on. You can't be thinking about your next election. You have to be thinking about what is the best thing for the city, what is the best thing for the people in your district, and how can you make the most difference in the time that you have.
You said your neighbors from your neighborhood association where you're president came to you. They liked what you did for their neighborhood association, I guess.
Absolutely. We've proven that we're able to improve a Nob Hill, to do a better job. And we've improved our parks. And we've gotten, there's more policing in the neighborhood. All these things have made a difference. And that's what I'll bring to Albuquerque is this idea that, we can do so much better. The city, it belongs to us. It's ours. And I know that if we come together with the city council that is committed and has a resolve, we can fix some of our toughest problems. I'm not afraid of that.
Where is District 6? And say it kind of slowly.
So it is one of the largest districts in our city. So Lomas out of Gibson.
Lomas to Gibson, okay.
And then Eubank out of I-25. And then over to Mesa del Sol. So we encompass the International District and all the neighborhoods that are east of San Mateo, the Nob Hill area, the University area, and then over to Mesa del Sol.
Those are kind of challenging areas.
They are, I believe, the most challenged areas in our district, and that's part of why I'm running, because I know that we can work together with council and we can make a difference. One of the things I'll do as city councilor is I will ask every other councilor to come with me on a ride along in our district and show them what the problems are. Then go back to council and say, look, let's solve these things together. I know we can do it. There's very little that a city councilor can actually do on their own. But if you come together with the other 8, we can make a real difference in District 6.
What are your priorities for District 6 and for the city of Albuquerque, Jeff?
So homelessness and crime are my are the two top priorities. They don't define us, but they are the things right now that are creating our greatest struggles, right, like in our city. If we have a city that's clean and safe, then we have the conditions for economic prosperity, for businesses opening, for home ownership. But we need to address both of these issues directly and very head on, which is something that I feel, I think we can do so much better on as City Council.
What is going on in District 6 with crime and homelessness?
Well, we have a very diverse district, and we know the area on the east side of San Mateo is really having a lot of challenges right now. On homelessness, I know there's more that we can do. One of the first things that we can do is we can realize that our Gateway Center is a really good start, but it's not the answer. We need a series of smaller site shelters in our city, which are specific to a population. So one for men only, one for women only, one for families only, where we can have targeted services in a very safe environment where these families can really get what they need, or the individual in a safe environment. That's one thing that we can do in our city that we're not doing right now.
But there's smaller facilities throughout the city, but sometimes a lot of the different neighborhoods don't want a facility in their neighborhood. That's been the struggle. And that's why we have the Gateway Center. It's one center off to the side.
Right. So these would have a curfew, and they would have rules, and they would only be for those who actually want to be there. There's a shelter in our city right now in a neighborhood, and most neighbors actually aren't even aware it's there. And we can build those kind of shelters in our city. But again, these are for folks who are on the way up and out who just need that support.
So that's one idea?
That's one idea.
For more shelters throughout the city.
Yeah. One of the other things that we're really not doing right now is, it's a great irony. In order to be housed, you must first be homeless. Why not invest in eviction prevention programming? So what eviction prevention is it means if you suddenly can't pay a month's rent, let's help you pay it. Or if you have an overdue bill, let's help you pay it. Let's not have you land up in a homelessness situation in the first place. That's how you break the cycle. We need to think about how all things happen in cycles, and if we invest in eviction prevention, we can make a huge difference in our city.
Where do you think these homeless people are from, Jeff? I had the New Mexico Business Coalition in, and they said they did research and found that there are about 2,000 homeless people on our streets, and whereas maybe a couple of years ago there were 200. And their feeling is, from their investigation, that these folks aren't New Mexicans. They're not people from Albuquerque. They're people from out of state coming here.
Yeah, so there's a point-in-time count that happens every year, and it's a single day a year where we go around and we try to count all the folks that are homeless. It's tough to know how many homeless folks we have. I'm going to put that out there because they're on the move, and some don't want to be seen.
Or are they on the move? They're here.
Right.
They don't seem to be moving out of Albuquerque. They're here.
Right. Yeah, they're here. Well, we need a city that works in order to get people out of homelessness in the first place. We can't just say that it's okay to be on the street or in a tent. When folks tell me that's compassionate for someone to live on the street, I respond by saying, if you live on the street, your chances of being assaulted, of dying, of having an overdose are far higher than if you're in services. Compassion is moving these individuals into services. That's one of the biggest things that we need to focus on.
But do they want to move into? You hear, and I'm not there in the count, but you hear they chose that lifestyle. They choose it. Some with mental illness maybe think they don't have another option, but some of them who are offered services prefer to be the lifestyle of living on the street.
Well, and one of the things we can do that we're currently not doing is the Community Safety Department is a brand new addition to our city, but it's not a proactive force. And in other words, you have to call them and say, hey, there's someone in a tent and they're behind my business. We know where the tents are. We know where these individuals are. We need a licensed, trained social worker out there on the streets every day actually encountering them, because what studies show is that 10, 20, or 30 encounters, someone will accept help, but they need a human relationship. They need to see that someone who actually cares about them.
We're not doing that now with this new.
We are not doing that with this new department. So we need to think about these folks as other human beings who need help and assistance. One of the other things that really bothers me as someone who works in this space every day is we have a whole host of providers. I say a constellation of providers, nonprofits and faith-based. We're not aligned. We're not working together. What if we all came together for a convening and said, so what are you doing and what are you doing? And we figured out what everyone is doing and we try to align our efforts. Some people are going to be very downstream, like giving people a bottle of water on the street. Others are going to be in a job training program. But imagine, Diane, if we had a system which aligned and worked with all those people along the way. That's part of our problem in Albuquerque on homelessness. We don't have a plan.
We do have a lot of organizations, because I've invited them to be guests on my show. But you're saying they're like the New Mexico Business Coalition. They have a coalition of different businesses and their interests. So we have a lot of, I think, 147 or so nonprofits working on this issue.
Right.
But you're saying there isn't a core organization.
Well, there's not alignment around the work, and especially here in Albuquerque, from what I see. What if we all came together? What if we all had a convening and said, look, we all care about the same things. We all see the same problems. How do we work together on solving this problem? Maybe it's an eviction prevention programming. Maybe it's a smaller site shelter. There are ways that we can do this. Other cities have done it. We're pouring a ton of money into housing right now. But you're right, and we got to get people off the street, and we got to get them housed.
What does Cuidando de los Niños do? You're the executive director of this organization.
So we help children and families that are homeless. So our niche population is all families. 80% are single moms fleeing some kind of domestic violence situation. That's the reality of it. So we have a 5-star school for children that are birthed at a kindergarten age, where we get them in. It's a loving and nurturing environment, and we get them up to speed developmentally. But we know that if we don't help the family, then we haven't solved the problem. We haven't broken the cycle of homelessness. So we work with the parents on a series of supportive case management programs, including housing, that get them all the assets they need. I'm fond of saying, either Cuidando, it's a nest, right? Like, it's not a forever home. We'll give you everything you need to succeed, but you have to fly on your own. And that's the work that we do every day.
How long would a woman, a single mom raising her children, stay at Cuidando de los Niños?
So
typically
the program is a year. Mm-hmm. However, we have families that succeed and resolve very quickly, and we have some who need extra time. And the reason I say that is, we're human beings. We're all different. Our situations are different. And so at Cuidando, we recognize those differences and know that it might take someone 8 months and another person a year and a half. But the goal is to eventually have your kids in school and have employment and be able to support yourself. That's what we all want. That's how you have your best quality of life.
And you see that can happen citywide.
This could happen across our city, but we need a coordinated system. We need a plan, and we need to measure that plan and make sure it's working. And when I say we can do better, this is what I mean. We can look at this problem, take it apart, right? Like into all the small parts, and then put it back together and say, look, for single women, here's what we're going to do. For single men, we do have to accept the fact we have a city, right, which is in a very warm climate. If you look at the numbers of homelessness in places like Maine and Wisconsin, they don't have that many folks. But here in the American Southwest, where the climate is warm and great most of the time, we do have more folks that are experiencing homelessness. That is a fact. Regarding
crime, what do you see as the problem, and what do you have as a solution?
I think there's a lot of problems with crime. There are many. One of the biggest things we need to look at is that we have problem areas in town, crime hotspots. And we know where they are because that's where the 911 calls come from. But the thing we don't think about is that's where the crime is also coming from. That's where the criminals are. That's where the activity, the masterminds are, if you will. What we can do is, what other cities have done, take police in and embed them in the community, and you have a community meeting and say, look, there's a problem here. Then bring in like a mobile command unit and drop it for 30, 60, 90, or 120 days and disrupt the cycle of crime in that part of town, right? So we make it hard on the criminals. So the police are right there, they're on the street. If someone sees something, they can report something and it gets addressed immediately. That's how you disrupt a cycle of crime. These are the kind of things we're simply not doing. The other thing we need to look at is when we look at the crime issue, we have 3 safety departments in our city, the APD, the firefighters, and the community safety department. We need to bring them together into a binding agreement over what services are provided, who, when, and where. Because right now there's some overlap, there's some lack of alignment. If we bring those 3 departments together and there's an agreement on what their efforts are, then we know who's doing what and we can make a difference.
Well, doesn't the dispatcher do that? Whenever I've called, it seems like is this a city issue or a community service issue or a firefighter issue?
Sure, and they all have a contract they sign with the city over those services. What if we aligned all those contracts? Is what I'm saying. Because right now, it's parsed out. These are the things that as a city, I feel like we've grown fast, we have a lot of potential, but we're behind the times on so many of these issues of modernization around an effective city that can actually solve these issues in very much real time. And that's the move that we have to go to.
What is it called? The APD mobile unit. I've seen that downtown occasionally. I don't go downtown because of the safety issues down there, sadly. But having it go into the neighborhoods with the hotspots, having it parked there, We don't do that now.
No. Oh, we used to do that. There was a time that we did. But, we should do that again. Here's the key, though, is you need to go in and find those in that community who truly care, who are just as sick of crime as everyone else, and make sure that they are on the side of the police, right? We've got to end this cultural division between our community and our police and know that we're all on the same side. People are afraid to call a police officer. They don't know what's going to happen. That has to stop, and that's a change in the culture of APD. Right now, on the union contract, an officer can basically move every 2 years. So they get assignment after 2 years to an area command, and then they move. How do we have a community policing model where a police officer moves every 2 years? We need it to be at least 4 years, right? Like going to college, you get to know those around you. Then you can have a community policing model. That's something that we need to change in a union contract that would make a real difference in our city. If you had an officer for 4 years who you came to know and trust, I can guarantee you if something happens on my street, I'm going to give them a call.
Well, who even knows they're police officers anymore? Who even sees police officers anywhere?
Well, and this is a challenge, right? We need to focus on retention, and we need to have our police stay on longer through bonuses and retention, but we need to look carefully at our system of recruitment and make it appealing for folks to become police officers, high schoolers, college students, make it a pathway to success in our community, and let's bring police back to a place of honor where we see them and we want to see them. So when I see them in my neighborhood, I always wave at them because I'm so happy that they're there.
Yes, we are. We are happy, and we thank them for their service. It's getting more difficult and difficult. What about any other points you'd like to make regarding crime in our city? It's not just it's not the responsibility of our police department or of our mayor or of our city councilors. It's not their sole responsibility. We're all responsible for this. What can we, as you see, working in your community, working with your neighborhood association, Jeff Hoehn, what can we as residents do?
So first of all, I think we can support our police. We can let them know when they're right down the street that we appreciate them. We can buy them a coffee at the Starbucks. Who would want to be in a job every day where you don't feel like your very community is on your side? We need to change that right in the city of Albuquerque. We also need to do a budgeting process with the police department that gets them other things that they need. Be it drones, be it a technology. We need to make sure that they have everything they need to fight crime in our city.
What about drones? What's going on with drones? Do you know, Jeff?
I am not a drone pilot,
okay.
but I've seen drones. We just had a mom at work who got a job, and she's a drone pilot. And I said, so why do you have that job? And it's because when they do HVAC now on buildings, they don't send you up on a ladder. They fly a drone over the building and they map it. But there are technologies. The real, the real crime response center. Arrest on red in traffic. There are all kinds of things we can do around the city. Speed cameras to lift the burden off of police while still enforcing our laws.
That was my next question regarding, it's a little scary out there, maybe because I'm aging, but driving problems I'm personally finding, and again, maybe older and I'm going a little slower than maybe I'm supposed to, but there's a very aggressive drivers against me. And if they're against me, I imagine they're against a lot of people. If you're stopped too long at the red light and you don't go in the green, they honk, they pass you, they give you the finger. It's very upsetting out there.
It is upsetting, and recently I had the experience of teaching my 16-year-old kiddo, right, so how to drive. And so in teaching them how to drive, I've become acutely aware of what's happening on our roads. I believe we need...
So you are aware?
I am.
I
see it every day.
Is it just me, or are you seeing...
No, there's a lot of aggressive driving.
The impatience of people is just incredible. It's scary.
Well,
what's going on out there?
I think we need a public kind of service, like a campaign that says, drive kind, or drive like your mom's watching you. Something like that tells people, we have a public responsibility to one another, and I think we've lost that.
Why do you think I think we've lost it. Why do you, Jeff Hoehn, think we've lost that?
Ooh, tough question. I don't know. I think people maybe are, inward focused right now. They're looking at themselves. But look, if you fly through a red light, right, and you're at an intersection, and you hit someone, well, then both parties are likely to become injured. We need to think about this and know that, we are each other's responsibility. That's our job.
What are you seeing teaching your 16-year-old to drive? What are you seeing on the streets?
I'm seeing a lot of bad driving, and I'm teaching her to be a defensive driver because people are aggressive. I told her, so when the light turns green, wait a second because someone's likely to fly through. But what if we really focused on a public safety campaign? TV, a water bill, billboards that says, drive kind.
Drive kind.
Let's
drive kind.
Yeah, I think we can adjust our public behavior. I truly do believe that.
What about again, it's not the police, not the city councilor's responsibility, but all of us. Regarding downtown safety and revitalization and around Nob Hill and the university area.
You know, one of the things I look at oftentimes in Albuquerque is we just need more lighting. You know, crime hates the stage. You know, we've all walked down that kind of a dark side street where it's dark and you don't feel comfortable. You know, we need to light up our city, and we need to do it in a way that doesn't cause, you know, our dark skies to be lost, but, you know, lights that focus on the street so things are visible. It is the most simple thing, but I can tell you where I live in the Nob Hill area, it's dark, right? You know, it's dark on side streets, and that's not comfortable. If we have lights at night, folks won't be lurking in those places, and if they are, they're visible and we can obviously like identify them, and that's a different story. So that's just one simple thing I think we can do in both those parts of town to make a real difference.
Regarding inflation, what can the city council do? What ideas might you have? I'm asking questions that just affect us daily. The safety, the homelessness, the inflation
Absolutely.
is affecting us. You're not responsible as a city councilor for it, but what do you think are some ideas about it, fighting inflation?
Well, you know, it's cutting into all of our budgets, and we see that every single day. You know, we pumped a lot of money into the economy. You know, we had a lot of inflation up for a time. It does appear to be abating. I think the answer is we need to lift our entire economy so wages can go up, right? So employers can choose to pay people more. I can tell you at Cuidando, we've raised all of our wages while increasing our benefits to try to fight inflation. But it's a real challenge, and it's not just Albuquerque, it's across our country. Yeah. You know, I think, you know, economic development should be a real focus of our city. You know, let's focus on small businesses though. You know, let's not focus on the big businesses. Let's help the mom and pops grow along Central and be able to afford their employees and have the assets they need in order to keep their shops open.
And for their insurance, which are escalating because of the crime.
You know, the glass premiums, if you have a glass storefront right now, are through the roof in Albuquerque. Yeah. And so it's all tied back to crime. Yeah. We've got to get a handle on this issue. I believe if our streets are clean and safe, if we can meet that basic precondition, then everything in Albuquerque will be better. You know, our insurance rates will decline, our businesses will blossom, our home ownership will go up. But I think so often we focus on these, you know, very large ideas. Let's get the basics done in Albuquerque.
I like the lighting. Jeff Hoehn, what else would you like to share that I haven't touched upon?
Well, I'd like to share about myself and just tell you that, you know, I am a proven leader. I have 10 years of executive leadership experience. I know how to turn ideas into action, and that's why I'm running for city councilor. So as you make your choice in November, I would ask you to take a careful look at who the candidates are, what their track records are, and what they've accomplished, and then cast your vote.
What kind of proven leadership can you give us examples of your proven leadership?
Sure, so one example, so with Cuidando Los Niños, when I started in 2018, today is my 5th year anniversary, we had a staff of 16 and a budget of $800,000. Today we have a staff of 40 and a $4 million budget. We also have more families being served than ever before. Back in 2018, we were serving about 45 families a year. Today, it's almost 400 families I receive services a year. So I know how to take ideas and scale them. I know how to tell a good idea from a bad idea. I know how to make a difference in our community. That's the kind of proven leadership I'm talking about.
What kind of funding does Cuidando Los Niños receive? Is it government funding?
We have a mix of funding. We have funding from the state, the city, and the county, as well as grants from private foundations, and we have a rich support of folks from our community who are donors. So a very diversified revenue stream. We don't depend on on any one area too much, and that makes us strong. You know, the problem with a contract is oftentimes you can't buy a light bulb. So we and so we depend on our community so we can do those things.
Great. Jeff Hoehn, a little bit of your background. You have a master in public administration from the University of New Mexico.
Yes, and so that's a degree that really prepares you for public service. It teaches you how to do program evaluation, large-scale budgeting. It teaches you how to look at public resources, which is ultimately what we're talking about as a city councilor. The number one job or thing a city councilor can do is approve that budget. And every year, we're going to look at our budget because I believe budgets are statements of values. And when we look at that budget, we need a city councilor who can say, what values are we promoting in Albuquerque? Where are we spending our money? Where are we spending our public employees' time? And let's make sure that this turns this into the best possible city which we can have.
And where would you like to see that money spent, Jeff Hoehn?
I'd like to, first of all, see it spent on crime, then on homelessness, but in a smart and targeted way. And third, on a quality of life initiative like the city hasn't seen. We need parks, we need trails, we need a beautiful city that's full of trees, and we need to look at the most underserved areas when we spend that money, right? And make an investment there so that those areas have the same opportunity for success as other parts of town.
Very good. What are your neighbors, what's your neighborhood telling you about these issues about you running? What are they saying?
They are
What are their concerns?
Well, it's the same issues, crime and homelessness, but they are extremely supportive of what they consider, and what I consider to be, Diane, a common sense of practical ideas that we can actually get done in the next couple years. There are the big ideas which we all talk about, but they never come to fruition, or like certain city services cost a lot of money and then are scaled down over time. I'm looking at things that we can do in the next 2 or 3 years that will make an appreciable change in our city. And neighbors like that. They like the idea of the fact that there are real common sense things we can do, which I can see happening every day, which will make a difference.
Are you going door to door, and what are people saying to you? Are they giving you ideas of what to do?
I am going door to door, and that's been one of the most heartening parts of this. Is people are supportive, and they have a lot of really good ideas that they're sharing about things like public transportation, about how we can support our police, about how we can have more trees in the parts of town that are just so hot. And so I write things down. I want to go door to door. I learn so much from neighbors, and that's one way as city councilor, which I'll be different. I will always listen. I know I don't have all the answers, but I know if I come together with our neighbors and listen to our community, we can arrive at common sense solutions that will make a real difference in the city.
Planting trees in the hot areas, having more lights throughout the cities, in the dark areas, showing our police presence with I think it's called the Batmobile, having it out there in these different neighborhoods. Now, you mentioned the hot spots, but we know there's crime. It goes from the hot spots all over the city, so thank you for that. Thank you for running. Thanks for what you're doing, and we appreciate Jeff Hoehn. He's running for City Council in District 6.
Thank you.
And tell us again what the district is.
So it is a Eubank at I-25 and Lomas over to Gibson, and then out to Mesa del Sol.
Very good. Jeff Hoehn is going to be on the ballot for Albuquerque City Council, District 6. Thanks for watching the program. We invited all the candidates to be a part of it. Those who have accepted, like Jeff Hoehn, are being interviewed and they are presented to you. Thanks again. I'm Diane Kinderwater. Make it a great week with your family. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The New Mexico Modern Child Support Family Program works to benefit both parents for the purpose of improving children's lives. It provides the basics of child support, but goes further by helping parents step up to find better job opportunities that get them back on track to paying their monthly child support obligation. Find out how the Child Support Step Up program can help your modern family. Contact New Mexico Child Support today to learn more.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.